Diabolic lovers. Imagine one day your father ends up sending you off to live a new life at a very spooky mansion, only to realize that it's currently occupied by a group of absolute freakazoid vampiric brothers who call you their sacrificial bride. Your everyday life then turns into an absolutely nightmarish hell where these thirsty-ass vampire boys lust over your absolutely delicious, thirst-quenching blood to the point where most of their efforts go into trying to guzzle your blood in the most violating ways imaginable. They'll drink from every orifice of your body using their sharp-fanged teeth while whispering sadistic sweet nothings into your ear. They want to drink your blood! And if the idea of a vampiric horn dog chomping into one of your ass cheeks to suck you dry without your consent wasn't horrifying enough, you are also then dragged into a darker conspiracy involving the rest of their freakazoid vampiric family tree, and you don't realize it until it's too late. I think that might be the simplest way I can describe the premise of Diabolic Lovers, an absolutely diabolical 2013 supernatural reverse harem anime based on an otome game series of the same name. I mean, it's in the name, you know, Diabolic Lovers. It's almost like the franchise itself understands that this is all absolutely insane, but at the same time, it takes all of this insanity 100% seriously. The one thing that really confused me was why this anime wasn't labeled as a horror anime anywhere I saw, because all I felt while watching this show was absolute horror for the poor main character who is literally dragged through a hellish experience because of this stupid-ass vampire family who don't know how to keep their fangs to themselves. Hello everybody, my name is Leo Hashi, and today I watched Diabolic Lovers, so you don't have to. Well, I'm assuming a lot of you have, but you know. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to watch me slowly but surely lose my mind. And a huge shout out to my channel members. If you're interested, make sure to check my memberships out. Diabolic Lovers is about a 17-year-old girl named Yui Komori who was sent by her father to live at a particular mansion for some unknown reason. There, she meets the Sakamaki brothers, a group of 6 vampire brothers who all have serious issues within themselves as well as with each other. What follows next is basically these brothers forcing Yui to assimilate to their vampire lifestyle, all the while treating her like just a drink bar, except it only serves blood. By the end of the show, a bigger, darker conspiracy involving Yui and the parents of these vampire brothers is revealed. Wow, how spooky! My personal opinion about Diabolic Lovers is that it's honestly really gross, but at the same time, it's so absolutely unhinged that I can't not laugh at it. I mean, I really didn't like the first half of the show because it's basically full of these weird-ass scenes of the brothers drinking Yui's blood in really icky and forceful ways, while the action itself is just them drinking her blood, as a vampire tends to do. These scenes were so SA coded that I felt the ick literally every single time it happened, because it was pretty clear what they were going for with these scenes. Like, these brothers basically take away Yui's consent every time this happened and continue to do what they want to do, even despite Yui constantly objecting to it. One of the main features of this show is that there are a lot of these weird-ass scenes where a vampire will spawn into wherever Yui is, say some sadistic shit like, "You're a worthless container. I want to hear you scream and squirm. I want to see your face contort into horrors no one's ever seen until you die. You're my little bitch. I'll make you feel pleasure like you've never even felt before." And then they push Yui onto something as she cries and begs for them to stop, and then they start biting into a part of her body and drinks her blood. Then they're like, oh, holy shit, your blood is of the finest quality. It makes me feel so boiling hot just drinking it. I want to keep you for myself, and you're not allowed to say no. And then Yui's face just looks like she's absolutely going through the worst thing ever until another brother spawns in and does the same shit again elsewhere. This is just a guesstimate, but I can confidently say around 80% of this show is literally just this happening over and over again. At some point, it's like, it's not even entertaining anymore. Then the second half of the show begins to introduce us to a bigger storyline outside of the horn dog vampiric brothers harassing Yui every moment they get, that involves one of their deceased mothers and their uncle's desire to bring her back to life in order to become the head of the vampire family. And somehow Yui becomes entangled in this conspiracy as they continue to tease something happening to her called the Awakening. Honestly, I think this part of the show was an absolutely wild ride that was way more interesting than whatever was happening earlier in the show, but I would say it was more interesting in a way that was hilariously bad rather than actually well done. I mean, as a horror and thriller fan, I appreciated that this show seemed to contain an actual mystery of some kind. Like, why was Yui sent there in the first place? Who is the mysterious lady that Yui keeps seeing outside of the window? Why does she keep fainting? Why are these brothers so goddamn thirsty? And this this one vampire brother who is always wearing earbuds the entirety of his screen time. Well, what the hell is he listening to? And yeah, I mean, this show was easily way more interesting than other recent shows I've seen like Brothers Conflict or Yosuga no Sora, but this anime overall was so stupid that I just couldn't take it seriously in any way. I also want to clarify that this video is only about season 1 of the anime. Diabolic Lovers does have a season 2, but it's based off of the second game in the series, meaning it would introduce a bunch of new characters and storylines and would probably confuse the shit out of both you and me, so I'll be making a separate video just talking about the second season. Before really breaking down this show though, I first want to talk about things I liked about the show and the things I didn't really like. Things I liked about Diabolic Lovers. Well, don't worry guys, this list is pretty short. I liked the opening song, that was pretty fire. I liked the mystery aspects of the story, or at least when they teased some kind of bigger mystery to keep me engaged. The actual way it plays out is like whatever the fuck, who cares? But at least they try something more than just horn dogs trying to get with one protagonist like a bunch of other shows I watch on my channel do. So there is that, I guess. Now, things I didn't like. Oh boy. One thing I really didn't like about this show were the goddamn characters, man. More specifically, the entire Freakazoid vampire family line. What is wrong with these egotistical maniacs? These fuckers are so conceited that it was just annoying at some point to watch. The brothers all look down upon Yui because she's just a human and enjoy torturing her emotionally. And they are very quick to completely insult her and tear her apart because she's just a mere mortal.
Know your place, mere mortal.
Some of them spend half their screen time just screaming nonsense and getting mad over the pettiest shit at Yui, while others just constantly harass her and make her as uncomfortable as possible every moment they get. And well, these brothers' issues gotta stem from somewhere, right? Well, meet their absolutely horrible parents and relatives who are not only just as egotistical as their children, but sometimes worse and horribly abusive to the point where I don't even blame some of these brothers for absolutely hating their parents. Like, one of these horrible mothers would literally threaten her child to drown him underwater and leave him to die if he didn't get perfect grades or something? Like, okay, I don't endorse the action of obliterating your mother from the planet, obviously, but I also don't completely blame this dude for snapping at her at some point. Like, if you treat your kids like shit, then no shit they grew up hating you. Why is this dumb bitch so shocked? What? The craziest part about this is that once the second half of the show begins and these horrible assholes are introduced, somehow they make the sadistic brothers look likable and sympathetic just because how horrible these families are to their goddamn children. While I do appreciate that each of the brothers does get sort of a backstory and there is a lot to explore there, and they are way more than just
Sexy objects to ogle at 24/7 live stream.
like the entirety of Rent a Girlfriend. And yes, I will keep saying that in almost every video. These brothers also do some real questionable stuff that makes it really hard to feel supportive or like any of them. It's just hard to watch this show without feeling bad for the main character Yui, who will 100% spend the rest of her life with an absolutely immense amount of Vampire x SA collab flavored trauma because of the horrible things that she goes through in this show. I mean, look, as with everything else I talk about on here, there's always an audience demographic for everything. Even for Diabolic Lovers, I'm sure there are many people who want to fantasize about one of these diabolical horn dogs to whisper sadistic yet somehow tingly words into your ears as they eat your ass with their sharp ass fangs, okay? I am definitely not a part of that audience demographic this series was made for though. But also, I feel like this show just sucks ass. The story is practically non-existent for the first half of the show, unless you count these brothers harassing Yui and making her life hell as a story, which I kinda don't. But then when the story becomes the main part of the show, it all feels nonsensical and dumb as hell anyways. There's really nothing of substance here except a ridiculously goofy show that's just hard to take seriously. I mean, one of the brothers calls Yui Bichi-chan the entire goddamn time. Bichi-chan? Bitch-chan? This fedora-wearing ass motherfucker is constantly like,
Bichi-chan, you're here to get friendly with us, right? Bichi-chan, you look so sexy right now. Smell delicious. Bichi-chan, are you trying to make me act up?
like, what the hell is this shit? I'm sorry, okay? But just imagine someone trying to flirt with you and the entire time they just keep calling you
Bichi-chan, Bichi-chan, hey little bitch.
How can anyone ever take that seriously? Anyways, I've been complaining a lot already, and some things might sound kind of confusing right now, but don't worry. Everything will make sense real soon. Okay, most things will. Let's now begin actually breaking down Diabolic Lovers Season 1. The story begins with Yui Komori, a 17-year-old girl, arriving at a very spooky mansion. She was sent to live here by her father for some mysterious reason. She walks into the mansion and finds it to be empty until she spots a young man with red hair laying on a couch. However, when she touches him, she feels that he has no pulse and he's freezing cold. cold. Is he dead? Oh my god! Yui has to call an ambulance. Suddenly, the guy wakes up and grabs her phone and tells her to be quiet in someone else's home. Then, 3 minutes into the first episode of this shit show, this dude is grabbing Yui and getting on top of her and is like, "I'ma take you for myself," and starts licking her neck. Like, what the fuck? As he's about to take a chunk out of her neck, another dude wearing glasses comes into the room and tells him to stop. Yui asks this other strange man for help, but he's just like, "Who the fuck are you?" Anyways, they all move to the living room where another dude wearing a fedora spawns in and immediately begins licking her cheek. Another dude holding a teddy bear squeals, "Let me have a lick too!" And finally, a dude with pink hair comes in being super mad about her interrupting his beauty sleep. So mad that he had to just punch a hole in the wall. Ah! It seems like no one knows about this random ass girl that suddenly appeared to live with them. Finally, a guy with orange hair who perpetually has earbuds on says, "Oh, that guy contacted me the other day. We have a guest from the church, so treat her with respect." The strange ass dudes then realize that Yui is the prospective bride, although she's more of a sacrifice than an actual bride. Whatever the hell that means. What the hell has Yui walked into? Yui begins to back off and wants to contact her father, but the dudes mess around with her and destroy her phone. And Fedora Man is like,
It's okay, Bichi-chan.
this causes Yui to run, but she trips and falls, resulting in her scraping her knee. As soon as the brothers see blood on her, they all become very spooky as Yui realizes that these dudes are all vampires. Oh my! Yui desperately takes out a cross and says, "Take this!" to deliver a final blow to these heathens, but the vampires just stare back in confusion like, what the f is wrong with this dumbass? They then say,
You really think garlic and crosses can deal with us? This is why mortals are foolish.
Yui then tries to run away, but each of the brothers continue to taunt her. Teddy Bear Boy threatens to break her, while Fedora Man asks,
Where's my little bitch-chan off to?
the red-haired dude pushes her on a wall and says, "Please humor me by screaming at the top of your lungs." As Yui continues to desperately run, a lock is broken from a particularly mysterious door. Yui runs into the room. It's old and dusty, but she also finds some jewelry laying around. Outside of the window, she sees a mysterious woman standing there, but as she turns around to look at Yui, her heart suddenly begins to pound and hurt, and then the mysterious woman disappears. As Yui looks over, she sees a picture of herself as a baby and her father's diary. In the diary, it's written, "Yui will make me happy. The fact that she is not actually my child means nothing now. I am only grateful for this great blessing every day I live." Yui is shocked about this. However, what's more shocking is that this interesting detail about Yui's father is completely meaningless because they never go into any detail or depth about her father, at least in this season. So what does it mean that she's not actually his child? And why is his diary here in the first place? It doesn't matter for shit! Suddenly, all the vampiric brothers had spawned into the room, telling her that this is a room they've sealed off so no one can enter it. As Yui looks absolutely terrified, the guys continue to taunt her and even threaten to kill her if she runs, as some of them begin to like necking her? Is that the term to use for whatever the shit is happening on screen right now? The red hair guy asks if she's ready as he gets on top of her and shows his teeth, and episode 1 comes to a close. I mean, the only thing I really could say at this point was, what? Huh? But let's keep going a bit more with the story before changing the subject. Yui wakes up in a bed, checking her neck and feeling relieved that she has no bite. She also wonders when the hell she changed her clothes. Also, what the hell is going on? Fedora guy spawns in saying,
Wow, you look sexy right now and you smell delicious. Are you trying to entice me, bitch-chan?
Then the red-haired guy pushes him off and is like, "She's mine!" Anyways, they tell Yui that she has to now start going to night school and assimilate to their vampiric lifestyle since she'll be living with them now. Or rather, Glasses' actual words is,
Just because you have the common sense of a mortal, you can't be active during the day. As long as you live in our house, you will adjust to our lifestyle. If you really don't like it, you can leave.
And Yui whispers underneath her breath, "Well, you said if I ran, you'd kill me." And Glasses gets real mad, saying,
Excuse me?
then threatens her to change into the uniform. Yeah, man, I love watching this poor girl get absolutely lambasted and treated like shit by all of the other characters around her. It's so much fun. As they all ride a limo to school, the brothers are all very silent. Yui wonders if they just don't get along well at all, despite being brothers. The brothers then give her 100% cranberry juice because it helps with weak blood. They say that she must fully become aware that she is their prey and drink that juice daily so that they can continue to feast on her blood. Meanwhile, we see a mysterious green-haired dude in the forest heading towards the mansion. Who the f is this? Later on, Yui manages to find her father's diary again in the same room, but opens to see that the entire entire book is completely blank now. Oh my god, a mystery's afoot? Well, not really, because like, again, this notebook really doesn't matter for shit. Or maybe I'm just misunderstanding it and they said it somewhere in the show and I just have no idea. Someone please let me know, please, because this show didn't do a great job. Anyways, that's pretty much how the show starts off. And at this point, for a while, the show breaks into smaller parts with mostly individual interactions between Yui and a vampire brother. And by interaction, I mean one of the vampiric brothers pushes Yui onto some kind of platform and then bites into a part of her body and drinks her blood as she cries and tries to resist, while we also see brief flashes of the brothers' tragic pasts in order to make these freaks into sympathetic characters, which did not really work for me, man. Before breaking down each of the brothers though, let's first talk about the main character of this show, Yui Komori. This poor girl, dude. This is gonna sound really shitty, but the only word I can really use to describe her character is victim. She doesn't have much of a personality, as per usual for these anime based off of visual novels, because she's supposed to represent the player or the viewer, and we're supposed to experience the show through her lens. Except experience the show through Yui's lens presents an absolutely horrific nightmare, where she has absolutely zero agency or ability to consent to anything that's happening to her. She gets constantly f***ed over by literally everybody in the show over and over and over and over again. And there's no way she ain't gonna have lifelong trauma after everything she's gone through. And even during the second half of the show, where the story actually becomes a story, Yui continues to get f***ed over by the vampire family, even having her own body taken away from her at some point. Other than being a victim to these horrible things, she herself is just a sort of passive self-insert character. The only thing I know about her is that she's from a church and she's a very devout believer and continues to believe despite all of the horrible things that happen to her. Then there's the standard self-insert character stuff, you know, worrying about everybody else, still giving these brothers the time of her day despite, well, them being absolutely horrible to her. I don't know, man. It's not even like I think she's a good or interesting character, but I just feel so bad because she goes through it, man. Someone please get this girl some therapy because I think she needs it. Anyways, with that out of the way, let me now tell you about the diabolical Sakamaki brothers and some of their wonderful interactions with Yui, starting with Shu Sakamaki. Shu is the eldest brother of the family. He has bright orange hair and always has earbuds in to show that he doesn't give a crap, guys. He could care less about the stupid shit happening around him. Ugh. I think the only thing I care to know about this guy is what the hell is he listening to behind those earbuds? Huntrix? XG? 24/7 lo-fi hip-hop beats to bite your victim to? Shu just seems so done with everybody and everything around him and is a very my pace kind of guy. Most of the time, he wants really nothing to do with anyone else and just wants to be left alone. He's described as a deadbeat and spoiled rotten by another one of his brothers, Reiji, the one wearing glasses, and the two's relationship seemed to be extremely strained for some reason. At some point during the story, Yui goes in to take a bath, only to notice that Shu had spawned into the fully filled bathtub with all of his clothing still on, including his earbuds? Are those things waterproof? He tells Yui he's just taking a bath, and Yui's like, but you're still dressed. She responds to her, then you undress me. Didn't you come in here hoping to see me naked? Jesus Christ, this poor girl. As Yui says, I only came in to take a bath. Shu says, you wanna take one with me? You're blushing. Shu, being so goddamn nonchalant, slides deeper into the bathtub, and Yui's like, oh no, he might drown in the bathtub. So he grabs his hand to rescue him. We then see a brief flashback to Shu's past. He remembers when another human asked for his hand. Then we see a flash of a village burning down. Shu then says someone's name, Edgar. Now, it's not really clear in the show, but I'm assuming that he once had a human friend named Edgar, but he was tragically killed when his entire village was burned down by something? I mean, this show does an absolute garbage job at actually clarifying a lot of these backstories, so forgive me if I'm wrong about anything, and please feel free to fix me in the comments below. Shu comes back to reality as he pulls Yui into the bath with him, both with their clothes still on. Shu says, let me drink her blood. Yui is shocked and upset, having believed that Shu wasn't like any of the other brothers. He wouldn't torture her like his younger brothers would. Shu then tells her, don't make a mistake. I'm a vampire. I'll show you a whole new world, and bites into her neck and begins to drink her blood. He then says, oh, your blood is so hot. I could get burnt. You're getting excited. What a dirty girl you are. Your temperature is rising now that fangs are at your throat. As Shu finishes his drink, he tells her, think twice before you reach your hand out to me again. Later, another brother notices Shu's bite marks on Yui's neck and challenges Shu to an epic battle of darts. Shu, however, doesn't want to play because it's too much work. However, Reiji, the guy with glasses, absolutely lampoons Shu with some real sharp words saying, oh, I see. Shu shrinks back from any challenge. If you look up the word spyless in the dictionary, you'll find a picture
picture of him in it. He can't do anything without help. A good-for-nothing deadbeat.
And this barrage of destruction was enough to motivate Shu to get up and accept the challenge of darts. The winning prize? Yui! That's right, these brothers are now playing a game of darts to see who wins the grand prize of Bichi-chan! Of course, Yui gets absolutely no say in this, as she's forced into this as well. Anyways, it looks like Shu is about to win. He's about to take the shot. Oh my god, he's about to do it, and he did it! Shu made the shot! A crazy play in it! Shu then walks past everyone as his prize is presented to him.
Here's your prize of 1 Bichi-chan.
As Yui is pushed onto Shu's back, he turns around and tells her,
To me, mortals are just something to feed on. Don't even dream of messing with me.
and walks off. So yeah, that's pretty much all I have for Shu's character. I mean, why do I even care? He seemed more chill than the others at first, but of course, that illusion was shattered real quick, and he proved himself to be just as degenerate as the other brothers. Will this get any better? I'm sorry to tell you, but no. No, it doesn't. Now let's move on to the next brother, Deiji Sakamaki. Deiji is the glasses-wearing second oldest son of the family. He's someone who really cares about things like proper manners and coldly cuts through bullshit with his words. He's very harsh on his brothers as well as Yui, as manners and perfection and cleanliness and shit like that matter most to Deiji. He also has a little lab in his room and experiments with random concoctions and shit. If I was to choose a favorite brother, okay, let me rephrase that. If I was being threatened violence by someone to choose a favorite brother, Deiji would probably be my favorite brother. He just has such a way with his words, man. I mean, you saw it before when he roasted the shit out of Shu before. I just think the scenes of Deiji just absolutely lambasting his opponents with his words just kills me every time. And in fact, I think my favorite scene from this show is one of his verbal destruction scenes, but again, I'll talk about that more later on in the video. Anyways, at some point, Yui begins to hear some kind of moaning from Deiji's room. She walks in to see Deiji sitting in a chair, seeming to have a nightmare. Deiji wakes up because of the smell of Yui's delectable blood and is like, well, I'll pour some tea. And any normal human being would assume that would mean he would pour tea for himself as well as his guest. Ha! You mortal fool! You really thought Deiji, the great vampire, would pour his f***ing exquisite tea for a mere mortal like Yui? You dumb bitch! So yeah, the dude only pours himself tea, and then he tells Yui,
Did you really think I was gonna make you tea? Do you even know who you are or know your place? Please stop being so conceited.
like, holy shit, Yui just can't catch a break from these guys. Oh, well, actually, Deiji was so nice, he was like,
I will allow you to enjoy the aroma of my tea.
thanks, man! Yui then brings up Shu's name, which fills Deiji with hate. I wonder why he hates his older brother so goddamn much. We then see a brief flashback to a younger Deiji watching Shu outside of a window with another mysterious woman, but this isn't really explained until way later. In fact, don't worry, I'll try my best to somehow make this weird-ass family tree and their horrific history make a little more sense once I finish talking about all the brothers. Deiji then says she'll give Yui a special tea, which I 100% would not trust in any way, considering this dude whips up special concoctions for fun in his own room, but Yui takes a sip and immediately drops the cup, breaking it. She also begins to struggle as Deiji says it's not something that'll endanger her life, but he doesn't like how it affected her, and he has to remake the tea again. And he makes her drink what seems to be some kind of antidote. As Yui coughs and falls over from this, Deiji says,
It's impolite to cough like that. Things that have been broken must be fixed immediately.
as Yui picks up her hand to see that she has a cut, Deiji grabs her hand and says,
Just like this broken teacup, I have no interest in things with imperfections. However, you infuse the air with such a sweet aroma.
Deiji then begins to lick her blood and suddenly shoves her into the wall. As she tells him to stop, he says,
I wonder who in the world will hear your screams of help. Mortals are nothing but containers of blood, despite your position as a worthless container. I wish to give you more pleasure than anyone. And
what the? He bites into her neck and begins to drink her blood, but Yui tries to push him away. Deiji then gets real upset, saying,
I will not tolerate disobedience. Learn to fear more. I will wrap the bandage around your injury so hard your hand will fall off. I wonder what kind of screams you'll make. It makes me happy just thinking about it. You'll suffer, and finally, crying and screaming, you will die.
Oh my god. As Yui falls on the ground, we then suddenly see another flashback to Deiji's past. It's a woman on the ground bleeding and dying. It's the same mysterious woman that was with Shu in the earlier flashback, and she's saying that she was able to witness Deiji's true abilities with her own eyes. She had always held on to the hope that the one to kill her would be Deiji. She says she's satisfied as she dies, and Deiji gets upset, saying,
You would die smiling in the end? No, I will not allow it. I have no intention of giving you, my mother, a peaceful death. How could I be expected to allow such a thing?
Present-day Reiji then says, I won't allow this. So yeah, it turns out that Reiji had killed his own mother, which, you know, sounds crazy, but again, we'll talk more about this family tree later in the video, but goddamn, dude. Once again, if I was threatened with some kind of violence and had to choose a favorite brother, it would be Reiji. He's a complete asshole. Let's be so for real. I mean, they all are, but also because he's such an asshole, it makes some of his arguments with other characters so entertaining to watch. Next up, we'll talk about Ayato Sakamaki. Ayato is the red-haired third son of the family. Ayato is a very energetic and narcissistic dude with a love for mischief. His arrogance knows no end, as he always refers to himself as yours truly or something, and he's always like, be glad that I'm giving you the privilege of feeding your blood to me. You know, that type of guy. Also, he literally calls Yui pancake the moment he meets her. I mean, the subtitle said pancake, but in Japanese, he literally called her chinashi, which directly translates to something like bliss or bliss. Like toothless from fucking How to Train Your Dragon. What an absolutely insane nickname to call someone, you know? But hey, that's Ayato for you, man. Ayato's the first brother that Yui encounters in the show, and he immediately gets on top of her and tries to suck her blood the moment they meet. He then spends the rest of the show really trying to make Yui his own. Although throughout the story, it seemed like Ayato was the one brother who actually developed genuine feelings of care or something for Yui. But again, this show sucks ass at telling us really anything, so who fucking knows? I also think Ayato has the most scenes where he shoves Yui in some kind of way into some kind of compromising position and then begins to violate her by sucking on her blood. Literally on the first day of school, bro demands that Yui cut class, make him some takoyaki, and then as Yui tries to clean the room and get back to class, Ayato's suddenly like, I've been holding back since yesterday. Let me suck. Yours truly is going to take all of your first experiences, which, Anyway, as he sucks on her blood and she cries, he's like, your tears, your painful face, these really do it for me. Reiji stops him as he says, I cannot believe you are doing this at school. Yui faints from this, so Ayato takes her home, and as she wakes up, Yui tells him to stay back, but Ayato says, you don't understand still. You are at the mercy of yours truly. Stop quibbling about everything I do! And then he throws her into the pool. However, it turns out that Yui is unable to swim. As Ayato sees her struggle in the pool, he gets some kind of flashbacks to his childhood. It's from Ayato's perspective, and he's in the water drowning. He hopelessly reaches his hand out to a woman, but the woman just leaves him to die. Ayato snaps out of it and dives in to save Yui from the pool, and as he grabs her, he kisses her on the lips? Underwater? But what is going on? And then the two just stare at each other, and then Ayato begins to bite her neck again? Like, what is going on? As Ayato brings Yui out of the water, he's like, your blood flows within me and it's overwhelming. Yui at this point begs him to stop as Ayato's like, fine, I'll leave it here for today. And this kind of thing happens multiple times throughout the show where Ayato's like, submit to me, you are mine and only mine. But over the course of the show, it seems like he develops some kind of sympathy for her, or I'm not even really sure what's going on, but there's multiple moments where he's about to kabedon suck her blood without consent, and then he just stops and walks away for some reason, and it's never really explained, but it seems to me like he's developed a soft spot for Yui. I don't really know though. Anyways, yeah, that's Ayato. He's honestly just so whatever to me. Now let's move on to the next brother, Kanato Sakamaki. Kanato is the fourth son of the family. He has purple hair, always carries around a teddy bear named Teddy that he literally speaks to, and also he's batshit insane. This dude is absolutely bonkers. Also, he's easily my least favorite brother. As soon as bro is introduced, it's pretty clear that he seems to be timid and reserved, always hugging his teddy bear / best buddy and speaking in a soft tone of voice. But oh no, you don't want to piss off this big softy because he's actually a maniac deep inside. He's a yandere or something. Actually, he might be more insane than a yandere character. In the first few moments we see of this dude, he's asking his boy Teddy what he wants to eat next, and then just begins to maniacally stab his food. Yeah, this is someone that I would love to live in the same house with and eat dinner with every night. The thing about this guy is he's either chill or just extremely angry. Like, there's no middle ground. And he gets angry to an absurd point where it's just like, okay, dude, like, fucking chill. Please calm down, like, lower the decibels just a bit. There's a scene where Yui tries the phone in the house until Kanato randomly spawns in next to her and tells her that he's thirsty. And his boy Teddy thinks so too. Yui kindly says, oh, sorry, I'll go get you a drink now. Sorry, Teddy. Which somehow makes Kanato completely snap. And he just begins to yell at poor Yui. He just barrages her with verbal assault. It's insane. He's like, don't talk to Teddy like you know him. I am the only advisor he needs. Yui then brings coffee to Kanato, only for him to knock it out of her hand immediately, and he continues to yell at her, I only like sweet things, nothing bitter like coffee.
coffee. What don't you understand?
When Yui tries to say that's no reason to knock the coffee on the floor, he gets even angrier.
Don't talk to me like that. You're immortal. You're worthless and have no right.
When she tries to apologize, he screams,
You don't even feel bad. Why do you apologize?
and at this point, it's like, okay, stupid bitch, like, what the fuck do you even want? Like, can you stop screaming? It hurts my ears listening to this. Then when poor Yui asks what she should do, Kanato tells her to think of that herself? Like, the audacity of this little shit? Lord almighty, I would just love to be in the same room as this guy 24/7. There's another scene where Kanato takes Yui to his mother's grave. He tells Yui to put some roses at the gravestone, but as Yui begins to leave after, Kanato once again begins to absolutely freak the out and completely ruins the flowers that Yui left on the grave. As Yui begs him to stop, he yells at her,
Don't order me around, you mortal! What do you understand about me?
Yui trips and he begins to laugh at her, saying,
Look how pathetic you look. Now crawl around in the dirt and cry like the pathetic girl you are. Then I may forgive you.
He then calls her cute and gets on top of her as he tries to bite her neck. Yui begs him to stop and Kanato suddenly says, Oh, if mortal women aren't given a kiss before being pleasured, do they become angry? What a pain. Then he kisses her on the lips as she tells him to stop, and I mean, we're kind of crossing the boundaries of consent at this point. And then he bites around her abdomen area and just drinks her blood. Like, what is... What? Ah! Probably the most horrifying moment of Yui and Kanato's interactions is when he takes her to a place that he's fond of. They end up walking into a hall filled with wax figures of very realistic looking women in wedding dresses. As Yui stares at the eerie figures, Kanato says that he thinks Yui would look beautiful as a silent corpse, asking if Yui wants to become a figure right now. Yui obviously doesn't want to become one of his sick, twisted figure collections, and she begins to run, but of course, Kanato pushes her up against the wall. He says he likes her frightened expression and begins to kiss her and shit, deciding that he'll sew her mouth together and give her glass balls for eyes. Holy shit. He then again bites into her neck and guzzles down on that goddamn delicious pure-ass blood of hers. Yui asks if these figures are actual people, and Kanato responds that they were the sacrificial brides of the past and says Yui will be more comfortable soon. Fortunately, Ayato spawns in and stops Kanato from doing whatever horrific activities he was trying to do with Yui. Well, you might think Ayato did this for Yui's sake, but then Ayato says, Don't make the mistake that I helped you. And of course starts to bite her neck again, but he actually stops himself this time. I mean, this poor girl just cannot catch a break. Yeah, I'm sorry, I hate this guy. I don't know, he freaks about one thing, and then when Yui does something else, and he freaks out about that too. And at some point, it's like, okay, like what the f do you want her to do? Bro is unhinged as hell, and I think he would be an incredibly entertaining villain in an actual horror story. But this is supposed to be some kind of twisted reverse harem where somehow, some way, he and Yui are supposed to end up in a relationship or something? Imagine being in a relationship with this dude. Jesus Christ, man. Now with that out of the way, let's move on to the next brother, Raito Sakamaki. Raito is the fifth son, and he's always seen wearing his signature fedora. He's a very flirty dude who literally throughout the entire show calls Yui Bichi-chan. Like, I genuinely cannot take this dude seriously in any way. I'm sorry if anyone actually liked this character, but I think he's just so extremely cringe, dude. I mean, Bichi-chan? Bichi-chan? What a stupid ass. This is crazy for me to say because every single brother in the show is like this, but Raito is one of the most forceful when it comes to pursuing Yui and trying to constantly harass her and suck her blood. He also feels like the one that crosses the boundary between just sucking her blood and actual SA activity the most out of all the brothers. There's a scene where Yui accidentally sees Raito confess his love for someone on the rooftop. However, he then notices Yui and says, Bichi-chan, it's bad to eavesdrop. I think you need to be punished. And as he shoves her into a wall, he's like, where would you like it, Bichi-chan? I'll guess where you're most sensitive, as the screen shows her legs. I mean, what the fuck is this? As he begins to suck on her blood, she pushes him off and runs out of the mansion to a telephone box outside. As she desperately calls her father at the telephone box, it turns out that somehow Raito had picked up the phone. He says he knows all about her as she looks across the street, and Raito is standing there with a phone. I mean, this is some creepy ass stalker shit, isn't it? It gives me Perfect Blue vibes. If anyone has seen that movie, it's a horror movie involving a creepy ass stalker, and that movie is pretty fucking scary. Quite possibly the most unholy moment of the show takes place in a church. Yui gets to the church as she asks God if this is another ordeal given to her. Raito appears, saying God won't answer anything, and pushes her onto the altar as he says, I'll now expose the lust that lurks inside of you. He then asks if she wants him to start from the top or the bottom, while Yui says you can't do this at a church, but this only excites him even more. He then begins to take her clothes off as he says, I'll see the places you've been too embarrassed to show anyone else, and you'll be mine. died. But he begins to kiss her leg and bites into her thigh and drinks her blood. As he does this, he tells Yui that the one who offered her up as a sacrifice was the very church that she had faith in. Yui then begins to believe that maybe her father was involved in this entire nightmare as Laito continues to suck her blood. I mean, okay, at this point, I feel like you could have said, technically all of this is just these vampires drinking her blood, right? Horrifying and painful? Yeah, but it's not like full-on SA, except this one scene is like, okay, come on. Like, this is getting real close to that zone, and it was very, very uncomfortable to watch compared to pretty much everything else in the show, which is saying a lot. Also, his hat must just smell like absolute shit. Bro never takes it off, and he's supposed to be like, how old? I don't know, vampires are immortal though, so I mean, you know, imagine how that hat must smell. Anyways, now let's move on to the final brother, Subaru Sakamaki. Subaru has pink hair, and he's also the youngest son. He seems very hot and cold, as he seems chill and caring at some points, but very easily angered at other moments. It feels like Kanato, except Subaru actually makes more sense as a character, and also doesn't go on a barrage of abusive screaming towards Yui every single time he's on screen. So I like Subaru better than Kanato. He actually for a little bit seems like the only vampire in the family who actually has any sort of sense and doesn't feel the same superiority as the other brothers do over Yui. Or he actually seemed to somewhat care about her or something, as he tells her that she'll die if she stays there. And he even tells her what time would be the most optimal to escape as the moon begins to get covered up by some kind of eclipse. Unfortunately, Yui decides to stay at the mansion as she wants to find out the truth about her father. Subaru calls this a wasted opportunity, and she asks if he knows anything about her father. Subaru knows nothing. Suddenly, he looks at Yui's face and gets a flashback to someone he knew from the past. Another mysterious woman that looks just like Subaru. He then hands Yui a silver knife that can be used to kill a vampire by stabbing them in the heart and walks away. We then see a flashback to that same woman telling a young Subaru to hold on to the knife at all times, and then asking him to commit murder for her, and he agrees to it because that's what she wishes. Honestly, no f***ing idea what this backstory is about. Even after finishing the show or season 1, it's really not clear what the hell this was even about, except for the fact that this woman is Subaru's mother, but honestly, who even cares? Unfortunately, you might think that Subaru is a caring, or at least more caring guy than the other brothers, but he is a part of this gross-ass vampiric bloodline, so he also ends up being, you know, dominant and wanting to suck her blood. He'll show up more later in this video, and I do think Subaru is interesting because he seems to be the most humanized character out of all the brothers, but at the same time, this is Diabolic Lover, so you know what to expect. Anyways, that's a brief overview of the wonderful and lovely Sakamaki brothers, as well as the first half of the show. Now we'll be going into breaking down the second half of the show, where it at least tries to tell a story rather than just have Yui constantly being emotionally tortured from every angle. At some point, we see on the news that there's a politician named Togo Sakamaki, a man who shares the same last name as the brothers. Laito says that this man is their father, but he only sees him as an object of hatred. Suddenly, Yui says the name Carl Hines and just falls unconscious for some reason. This part of the lore isn't really explored too much, but it turns out that Togo Sakamaki, better known as Carl Hines, is the head of the Sakamaki family. And the wiki lists him as the Vampire King or something, which I didn't even know until I googled this dude. I don't remember if the show ever explicitly stated that this dude was the Vampire King, the king of all vampires. And while this whole reveal might actually sound interesting compared to literally anything else that we've seen so far, they barely even explore this part of the story, so whatever, let's just move on. Meanwhile, the random green-haired dude walks into a hidden chamber in the locked room of the mansion, and we see that he's looking at some kind of dress. Turns out this guy is named Richter, and he is the uncle of the Sakamaki brothers and Carl Hines' brother. He seems to be planning for a mysterious event called The Awakening, and Yui seems to be very important in this event. There's an episode where Yui sees the mysterious woman from before standing outside the mansion, and as she turns to look at Yui, she smiles. Yui then randomly faints, but then gets up in a trance-like state. Suddenly, she finds herself at the mansion again, except now she seems to be in the past? And this is where we sort of start to understand why the brothers are the way they are, why some of them seem to hate each other so much, and why some of their parents seem to be the object of their hate. So it turns out that Shu and Reiji, the two oldest brothers, are born from the same mother. Yui spots a very young Reiji sitting next to his mother and reading a book as Shu comes up happily to them holding a dog. He says that his friend Edgar gave him this dog. However, the mother cruelly commands the butler to take the dog away, which upsets Shu and he runs off. Meanwhile, Reiji tries to impress his mom by telling her that he memorized the entire book he was reading, only to be completely ignored by this horrible mother. We don't really see more of their history, but it's assumed that this complete difference in treatment, where Shu gets all the attention while Reiji was completely disregarded, is why the two brothers don't get along, and also would make sense as to why Reiji was the one that ended up killing his mother. However, despite Reiji's hate towards his mother, she only seemed to be happy that Reiji was the one to take his life. I mean, what a demented ass family, dude. Meanwhile, Ayato, Kanato, and Raito are apparently triplets. Yui spots the three as children playing around the mansion until Ayato is called over by the lady that Yui saw earlier. This lady is named Cordelia, and she is the mother of Ayato, Kanato, and Raito. She's also absolutely horrible. Like, she's a horrible human. Well, she's not a human, she's a vampire, but you know. And my least favorite character of this series. She tells Ayato that it's time to study, and Ayato asks why the others get to play, but he can't. Cordelia says that he's different from the others, and then she starts to get really pissed off, calling him the successor, and asking him if he knows what that means. Ayato sadly says, I must become number one. I must become better than anyone. Cordelia then asks, and if you fail? Ayato responds, that means I'm not mother's child, so I'll be sunk in the bottom of a lake. Cordelia then says to him, that's right, you are worthless to me unless you're number one. Kids like that have to sink at a cold lake all alone where no one can help them. Unless that's what you want, go to your room. Ayato then runs off. I mean, come on, right? Like, what a terrible person, or vampire in this case. And it's also shown that Cordelia treated the other kids very differently, as she lovingly calls a young Kanato her songbird and asks him to sing a song for her. Like, I'm sorry, I've literally only seen her in this one scene at this point in the show, and I already hated her. Finally, Subaru, the youngest, is from a completely different mother from everyone else. Yui spots a young Subaru looking up at a tower where he sees a woman, his mother, locked up behind a barred window. Yui notices Subaru drop a knife on the ground. It's the same knife he gave Yui. So this is also very unclear, but I guess Subaru had his mom taken away from him or something, and he couldn't protect her or something. I don't know, but apparently this is why he has a very different perspective on things, or maybe a little bit of a different personality than all of his other brothers. Again, if I'm wrong, please feel free to comment below, because the show did not do a good job at communicating literally anything about what the shit was going on here. Yui then sees Richter, their uncle, telling Cordelia how beautiful she is and how all things exist to love you and kneel at your feet. Like, okay, you goddamn sim, please chill. Ain't no way I am about to love and kneel at the feet of a lady who literally threatens to drown her son for getting bad grades, okay? She ain't that bad, dog. Suddenly, everything becomes gray and frozen until Cordelia looks over at Yui, and she falls unconscious once again. Unfortunately, we never actually get an explanation as to what in the hell this flashback was either. She just randomly woke up in it and then randomly spawned out of it. And then right afterwards, well, she gets double teamed by Ayato and Raito in the sewers as they both try to suck her blood at the same time, but we'll just skip over that because who fucking cares anymore? Later, Yui asks Raito, Ayato, and Kanato about Cordelia. We then see a flashback to Cordelia getting savagely attacked by Ayato, whose shirt is stained with her blood. Ayato taunts her as Cordelia desperately tries to run away and bumps into Raito, who asks her what's wrong, but doesn't actually seem to care. She commands Raito to help her because Ayato has come to kill her. And I mean, okay, again, I don't endorse or support the action of eradicating your parents in any way. But again, also, I can't really blame Ayato for snapping at Cordelia at some point, considering bro was brought up with the constant threat and fear of literally being drowned to death by his actual mother if he got like a fucking B+ or hell, an A- on his report card. Like, what? Wait, what? If you treat your kids like shit, they'll come to resent you and even hate you? What? Anyways, Raito says he'll protect her. Cordelia says he's the best and she loves him the most. Raito then does a little trolling as he says, you never change, do you? And pushes her off of the balcony into a garden of roses, apparently killing her. Kanato then walks over to Cordelia's corpse and asks if she's dead, then says he'll warm her up now since she's gotta be cold, and sets her corpse on fire, and then smiles and laughs sadistically like, you know, I mean, this is just his character at this point. Obviously, Yui is terrified after hearing this truth that these three got rid of their own mother and begins to run away. She says she hates this place as she bumps into Subaru. She asks him why he gave her the knife, but he tells her to go away or he'll destroy her. Yui then asks if that woman in the tower was his mother, and Subaru grabs Yui, asking what she wants from him. He says, what do you expect from someone as powerless, hideous, and as polluted as I am? Hearing this negative self-talk from Subaru shocks Yui until he then pulls her in and hugs her. her. And I'm just watching this and going, wait, what? An actual human-like moment in the show where Subaru shows some kind of weakness and gives us an interesting view into him as a character? But of course, the next moment, he just bites into her neck and drinks her blood as again, Yui keeps telling him to stop. And then, Subaru's just dominating her as he says he gave her the knife so that she could stab him with it, should Subaru himself wish it. Yui says there's no way she can do such a thing, to which Subaru responds, if you can't, then use it on yourself. You have no right to refuse. In the same way, you can't deny me your blood. Always. And continues to guzzle on her blood. Man, can we just not get any normal behavior or interactions from anyone in this show, like at all? Yui walks along the lake and bumps into Shu. Yui confides in him that she's been feeling weird recently, like she's not herself. Shu then again bites into her neck and drinks her blood, but notices that her blood has changed and the awakening is at hand. Yui asks what he means, but Richter arrives to answer all of her questions. Yui asks Richter why she's even here and why she was chosen, and how her father is involved with the sacrificial brides. Richter then smiles and says,
Chosen? How conceited can you be? You came to this house because you're of a suitable bridal age and were the easiest mortal to obtain. Only a foolish mortal would consider such a thing a necessity or chance. An inferior being like your father isn't involved in this situation.
Like the ego on these little shits, man. You ain't even all that, Richter. Okay, you simp over abusive mothers. Yui's heart begins to hurt again as Richter says,
I can finally see you again, my darling. How long I've waited for this. Now come to me.
Yui's eyes turn empty as Richter takes her hand and brings her to the locked room. Richter takes the diary and Yui's father's picture and destroys it, saying those are unneeded now. Yui touches the rose on the dress and suddenly Cordelia takes over her body as she turns to say, we finally meet again, Richter. All the brothers seems to notice the change in the air as Cordelia is revived. Ayato's reaction is especially interesting because he gets up immediately to make sure Yui's in her room, as if he's seeing if she is safe or not. Cordelia and Richter catch up about the past and flirt and whatever, who cares. Richter then says,
you are my brother's wife. I am a man who fought with his brother over you and lost.
Ayato then walks in, pissed off about the situation, which I don't really blame him for. Cordelia says despite Yui having no consciousness, she's still fighting to eject her from her body. It's revealed that Richter had found Cordelia's body before Kanato burned it up. She had asked Richter to cut her heart out and then implant it into someone else's body so they can bring her back to life. He swears that he will resurrect her, and once she's fully awakened, Yui's soul will be gone for eternity. As Ayato and Cordelia talk near the water, Ayato says it's his turn now and pushes Cordelia into the water. Cordelia, although cocky, didn't know that Yui can't swim, so she ends up struggling underwater. However, miraculously, she manages to pull herself out of the water as it's revealed that she's returned back to being Yui again. Despite being confused as hell about literally everything, Ayato doesn't explain anything to her, but just bites into her neck again and just drinks her blood. And holy shit, it's so incredible now. It tastes so damn amazing. I can't fucking stop myself from drinking it. I'm about to get blood diabetes. Ayato then tells her to dedicate her blood and life to him as he's about to kiss her on the lips. Suddenly, Laito and Kanato walk up to them saying it finally makes sense why Yui's blood tasted and smelled so damn good and that it was so hard to restrain themselves. Yui then freaks out and runs off. So yeah, no one's explaining to this poor girl what the hell's going on. Okay, I guess these freakazoids just stay being freakazoids no matter what. Richter tells Yui that her blood now drives the brothers crazy to the point where they can barely control themselves. Each will become frantic to make her his own, and it will become an ugly conflict, even leading to tragic deaths for some of the brothers. Yui then starts to worry and wonders what she should do as Richter tells her that the answer will eventually come to her and to clear her thoughts. She only needs to accept the answer when it comes. Like, what? Okay, so suddenly they're just setting up the great war of the brothers because they're all fighting over Yui's delicious mouth-watering blood, and then suddenly Yui is worried about and cares about the brothers' lives? These brothers who spent the rest of the show pretty much violating and harassing her and absolutely terrifying her and traumatizing her and flipping her life completely upside down? Now we're suddenly supposed to care? Like, what is this shit? And besides, this plot point doesn't even really go anywhere. It makes fucking zero sense. It's like, I don't know, maybe it's from the game or something, but this just, why even, what? Anyways, Cordelia has taken control of Yui once again. As she and Richter chill, Reiji walks in to deliver some of the most savage lines in my favorite scene from this anime. He says he never expected their special visitor to be Cordelia, who responds that Reiji looks just like his father. Reiji tells her, please do not needlessly invoke my father's name. I find it very offensive. Cordelia says, boredom is the most painful thing for immortals like us, and I cannot stand boredom. Reiji responds, it's true. Boredom doesn't suit you. Death suits you better. Bro's not holding back any punches. Cordelia begins to taunt Reiji by telling him that his mother met a useless, pathetic end, which angers him. As Cordelia continues to taunt Reiji, he says, I understand now. This is how you turned my father and his brother, my uncle, against one another. Cordelia says, you make me sound so evil. Maybe you're right that I'm the reason why their relationship collapsed. Reiji then responds, well, I guess their bond wasn't very strong if it was broken by a lowlife like you. I mean, come on. Cordelia goes up to Reiji as she tells him that she came back to life in order to take revenge on Karl Heinz, the head of the family. Reiji asks if this is because he didn't love her, and Cordelia says, well, my desire to kill him is the greatest proof of my love. So I guess to this Freakazoid family, the way you confess your true love is to literally just kill that person, I guess. I mean, interesting traditions. Reiji then says, so you want to force your love on my father, whether or not he wants it, huh? Cordelia responds, I guess I should shut that clever little mouth of yours, and goes in to kiss him on the lips. What? Girl? And then they really go in for the kiss? Like Reiji also kisses her back. Girl, you f***ed his dad. You f***ed his dad. You f***ed his dad and his uncle, it seems like. What is wrong? What is wrong? Cordelia says that she's becoming interested in Reiji as a man, which gross. Again, you were literally with this dude's father at some point. But then Reiji asks, what about my uncle? Cordelia says, he doesn't object to anything I do. Now come, we have all the time in the world. Reiji then drops the mic, saying, I will pass. I am simply not attracted to corrupt women of loose morals, which makes Cordelia slap Reiji across the face. I mean, come on. I will say, I hate all of these characters, but Reiji had me cackling at this scene, man. Just for this one scene, I stand Reiji. Laito also walks in, telling Cordelia, I thought the next time I saw you would be in hell. Again, I just absolutely love every single moment of these brothers destroying Cordelia with their words. It just gives me such a good chuckle. All of the brothers then come into the room, and Subaru tells the two relatives that neither of them belong there. Richter retorts that Subaru puts on a show despite his inability to protect his own mother. Subaru is now angered, and he jumps in to fight Richter, but Richter dodges him easily and says none of them can rival him. However, Shu begins to laugh, retorting that to Karl Heinz, the head of the family, Richter doesn't even register as a rival. Cordelia, now being her ever charming self, says that she herself cannot shine if these damn kids are still here, so she commands Richter to kill the brothers and gives him the silver knife that Yui was holding. She says that if Richter gets rid of the brothers, she'll make Richter into the new head of the family. Richter, however, says, that's strange. Wasn't the condition that I saved your life that you would make me the head of the family? Cordelia says, I'll do anything if you get rid of these damn brothers. But Richter responds, you're a fool. You are useless to me in your less than pristine condition. All I really need is your heart. As long as I awaken the girl who has your heart and make her mine, I can become the head of the family without you, Cordelia. So it turns out that Richter was the one who's been using Cordelia this whole time, not the other way around. Wow, what a twist. He grabs Cordelia and is about to bite her neck, but Ayato comes in saying to not touch her without his permission. Richter and Ayato then begin clashing swords until Ayato is pinned to the wall. As Ayato is about to be executed, Yui returns to consciousness and runs off. She then suddenly takes out the knife and uses it on herself as she says, now no one will get hurt. She falls over as Ayato catches her. Richter tries to desperately get Cordelia's heart back, but Ayato injures him badly and he's forced to retreat. Ayato tells Yui to open her eyes, but it's Cordelia again, saying it's only a matter of time before Yui dies and the awakening is complete. She then falls unconscious. The brothers seem impressed and also kind of worried that Yui just did this to herself. Yui's turning more and more pale as they wonder if there's a way to just make Cordelia leave her body. Reiji is cooking up a concoction of some kind. Meanwhile, Richter drags himself to the hidden chamber with Cordelia's old dress. He tries to reach for it, but Laito appears, saying he had no idea the dress was being hidden in a room like this. He says that Richter got too cocky, using Cordelia for his own gains, and asks what he was planning to do with the power he'd gained from this. Richter says the truth isn't as simple as you think it is. But again, it's not really explained, so who cares? Laito tells Richter one obvious truth. Never again will they let Richter or Cordelia run their lives, ever again. He takes out a candle and throws it onto the ground, starting a fire with the dress and taking Richter alongside it. Richter smiles as Laito says to have a nice time in hell. Yui begins to move, seeming to be in pain. They think the awakening has started. There's been no precedent for an ordinary woman to awaken with the power of a vampire. No vessel has ever survived the process. However, things are different now as Yui has has Cordelia's heart inside of her. Reiji then comes in with a concoction that'll kill Cordelia once and for all, but it's still unfinished. He needs a piece of Cordelia in order to finish it fully. Kanato suddenly rips his teddy bear open and takes out some kind of
bottle
containing what seems to be Cordelia's blood. I don't know what the hell he's doing with that, but anyway, Reiji mixes it. Ayato then delivers the medicine using his lips to her lips, and finally, Yui wakes up. She says she's alive and wonders what she's doing there. But the brothers respond she doesn't need to know, as the happy music plays and the brothers all watch her and seem happy that she's alive. Yui gets up then says, "Oh, I'm thirsty." Has she become a vampire herself? What? What a twist! Unfortunately, they don't give us an answer to this question, at least in this season, as it cuts to the credits right after this, and then after the credits, we get a scene of each brother talking about how they'd so lovingly torture Yui from here on out or whatever, who cares. Yui is then seen standing outside of the balcony with a rose in hand. Ayato comes by and hands her a necklace that was very important to her, but she lost it at some point during the story, and I didn't really bring it up until now because who really cares? And she thanks him as she smiles and the rose falls. Meanwhile, they had placed a lock on the door to that hidden room once again, and season 1 of Diabolic Lovers comes to a close. So if a lot of things made like absolutely no sense to you, then don't worry, man. As someone who literally watched this show, spent hours writing a script, trying to think about what I thought about the story and the characters and everything, and also trying to recap it for you guys, a lot of it also makes absolutely no sense to me. I will say, I think this show does have potential. Some of the mystery aspects were intriguing, and as a horror fan, I was sort of gripped at certain points of the story. But the execution of that mystery and the reveal of the awakening and everything that happens after Cordelia and Richter are fully introduced into the story felt like someone just diarrheaed all over the animation studio computers and just called it a day. And also, again, I could really do without all the weird blood-sucking scenes. Like, I feel like that just kind of ruined the show for me completely anyway. At the end of the day, Diabolic Lovers just feels like an extremely goofy show with a side of, this feels very uncomfortable. The story felt flimsy and disconnected as hell, which is as per usual for a show that's based on a visual novel full of different paths and endings and whatnot. But again, that only hurts the anime at the end of the day, like every other one of these animes. I just don't understand why they even keep making this kind of anime. It doesn't even entice me to want to play the game. And as per usual, again, I'm just not part of the audience demographic for this show. Like, let's be so for real. At the same time, even if I was, I still feel like all in all, this show just kind of sucks ass. As a show trying to tell some kind of story, I think it did a really, really poor job at it. And the show overall just felt more like, hey, watch this girl get traumatized for 12 episodes straight. Wow, I cannot wait to watch season 2 after this, man. Anyways, though, that's it from me today. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you watched to this point, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. Make sure to leave a like, and don't forget to subscribe for more anime and anime-related content, and a big thank you to my channel members as well. I will see you in the next video that I decide to make. Peace out.